Greetings, Lumen students. It is week 8 and this is your Monday video. Glad to have you with us. We're going to be working on some more homonyms. So let me share these with you this week. The first set are whale, whale, and whale. I'm sure you're familiar with the first one and the last one. To wail, W-A-I-L, meaning to cry out loud. Ah! To a whale, this type of whale, W-A-L-E, is a ridge of fabric or a skin welt. That's really interesting. I don't know that we use that one very much. Or whale, a large sea-dwelling mammal. Okay, of course you're familiar with that. Here are some more ads. Check out that one. That's so interesting. So ads, to put in or insert or to tally or total up. And I just separated out the S because that's how we usually use it without the plural form, add. So if you add something up, you can think of that, or add it to your suitcase, okay, to put it in or insert or to total up. Okay, that adds up to 100. Okay, we would use it that way. Or an ad that you would see is short for an advertisement, an ad on the TV, an ad in the newspaper. Okay, that is something, a promotional material, something to try to sell you on a product. And this type of ads is a tool that is similar to an axe. Really interesting. Okay, here are two different sets of homonyms, can't and dear and dear. Can't, this is an apostrophe that I'm sure you're familiar with. It's a contraction that is the combination of the two words can and not. Okay, and together they say can't. To can't is to lean to one side. Okay, the ship would can't. A ship would be leaning to one side, or a building. Okay, dear is someone or something very important to you. My dear. Okay. And finally, deer is an animal, right? An antlered mammal. Here's a couple more. Fairy and fairy. Gorilla and gorilla. Okay. A fairy is a tiny being who flies and has magical powers. This type of fairy is a commuter boat. That's to transport or carry you across a channel. Okay, we're going to take the ferry over to the island, you might say. So a commuter boat. A gorilla is a large ape-like mammal, and then a gorilla is a military type fighter who is not in the official army. A guerrilla fighter who's not kind of a rebel out in the woods, secretively fighting maybe against the government. Okay, how about these? Have, and have. Half is one of two equal parts. To have is to separate something into two equal parts. Okay, and to have is to possess something. And half isn't quite a homonym because you can kind of tell the difference, but they sound so similar. Half, have, and have. Okay. Just two more. Yoke, yoke, ball, and ball. Okay, a yoke is like those things that oxen would wear that hooked them both together, like equally yoked, okay, we would say. That is a wooden harness used to group animals to work together. Or a yolk is the yellow part of an egg. A ball, you know what a ball is, a sphere, And to bawl is the sound made by a calf. That's so funny because we use that word to describe how lots of people cry. Look at her, she's bawling. But it began as the sound a calf would make. So that's pretty cool. Instance and instance. Let me see if you can see those. Maybe you can't if I put them all the way down there. Let me just show you. Instance is an example. Okay, let me give you an instance or an example. And instance are moments. Okay, an instant, in an instant. Okay, and this is a plural form of several moments. Okay, and in an instant, an instance and instance. We'll have some more fun this week playing around with these spelling words, playing some games with them. But as we continue our language arts studies, we're going to be working on a new part of speech this week, and that part of speech is pronouns. So I want to begin with a fun Schoolhouse Rock video from my childhood that introduces pronouns. Let's go to that just really quick. It's going to give me an ad for just a second, but let me skip it. Okay. We talked about before how you were working on a how-to paper. Okay, you could do a how-to on drawing. I know some of you are really good artists, and I've seen lots of how-to books on how to draw things, maybe how to draw a fairy, how to draw a whale if you're really good at animals, how to draw a gorilla. Those are just some examples. It looks like the video is ready, so let's start that.
A friend named Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla, and I could say that Rufus found a kangaroo that followed Rufus home, and now that kangaroo belongs to Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla. Whew, I could say that I have to, because I got pronouns I can say. He found you see, he, him, and his are pronouns replacing the noun. Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla, a very proper noun. How common. Now Rufus has a sister named Raffaella Gabriella Sarsaparilla. If she found a kangaroo, I'd say to you, she found a kangaroo that followed her home, and now it is hers. But I can't say that, because she found an aardvark that fell in love with her, and they're so happy. And my name's Albert Andrea Samadilla, no relation to the sarsaparillas, because of pronouns I can say. If she would find a rhinoceros for me, and we'd be happy. You see, a pronoun was made to take the place of a noun, because saying all those nouns over and over can really wear you down. Now I can tell you Raffaella Gabriella and Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla and Albert Andrea Samadilla, an aardvark, a kangaroo, and a rhinoceros. And that aardvark and that kangaroo and that rhinoceros belong respectively to Raffaella Gabriella Sarsaparilla and Rufus Xavier Sarsaparilla and Andrea Samadilla. Because of pronouns I can say in this way, we found them and they found us. They are ours and we're so happy. Thank you, pronouns. Pronoun was made to take the place of a noun, cause saying all those nouns over and over can really wear you down. Sometimes when we take them all on the bus, people really raise a fuss. They start shouting out a lot of pronouns at us, like, who brought that rhinoceros on this bus, and what made that horrible noise, and which one of them getting off first? Who, what, and which are special pronouns. can ask a question in a sense where you do not know the name of the noun. But I know I have mine and she has hers. He has his and you have yours. They love us and we love them. What's ours is theirs. That's how it is with friends and pronouns. You are really friends, yeah. Cause saying all those nouns over and over again really wear you down.
Thank you, students. Sorry for it was a little jerky, a little glitchy there for a minute. Pronouns are really, really valuable. As I said, the definition is a pronoun that's designed to replace a noun in a sentence, so you don't have to keep repeating the noun, especially the proper noun, over and over again. I have a list of pronouns that I'll show you just really quickly. And if you have a piece of paper that you can write these pronouns down, we're going to be doing some activities related to them. And so, if you could get a list, you don't need to have all the elements of this chart. Okay, first person, second person, third person male, third person female. Just write the white pronouns in the center. So I, me, my, mine, and myself. You, your, yours, and yourself. He, him, his, and himself. She, her, hers, and herself. It, its, and itself. We, us, our, ours, and ourselves. You, your, yours, and yourself. Think about how often we use these pronouns. This part of speech is probably the most commonly used part of speech, and that we are always using I, you, me, he, she frequently, and we're going to get some practice in learning how to identify those and use them correctly this week. Because we're getting close to Halloween, I have some fun Halloween picture books that I want to share with you. But I need you to have this pronoun chart, or at least the list of pronouns written down in front of you so you can identify them when they're found in this book. So if you haven't got them written down, please pause the video and go ahead and write them down and then come back and join us. If you've got your list of pronouns now, I'm going to read you our first Halloween picture book. It is called My Monster Mama Loves Me So, and I want you to just make tally marks each time a pronoun is used. Okay, so get a scrap piece of paper, write it next to your list of pronouns. Let's see if you can come up with the number of pronouns that are used in this book as you're looking at some fun illustrations. Hey, sorry. I've got all my picture books on here for the week. It's going to take me a minute to get back to it. All right, here we go. And I've taken pictures of just the words so you can look closely at the words as well as the pictures, so you can see them. Okay. Here again is the title and the cover. My Monster Mama Loves Me So by Laura Luke and illustrated by Mark Beener. My Monster Mama Loves Me So. Let me tell you how I know. Okay, students, how many pronouns did you identify on that page? Okay, just quickly before we move on. Did you get my, okay, me again, you, and I? So on that page alone, you had 5 tally marks. Hey, let's keep on going. There's the Monster Mama expressing lots of love. When I wake up, She tweaks my nose, tickles all my pointy toes, combs the cobwebs from my bangs, and makes sure that I brush my fangs. Did you get your tally marks for that one? I gotta keep track too. Let's see. She gives me great big hairy hugs, bakes me cookies filled with bugs, and when I'm sick, she's twice as nice. She gives me lizard juice with ice. Yum. She helps me climb the jungle gym, takes me to the swamp to swim, and comes to all my beast ball games. She claps and stamps and roars my name. Oops, sorry about that. And when the scary things come out to wave their arms and scream and shout, she tells me, "Don't be frightened, dear," and shows me how to disappear. There's one of our homonyms for this week. What are the scary things? Of course, us people. We're so scary. On rainy, windy, stormy days, she breathes and makes a cozy blaze. We read some books, toss on more logs, sing camping songs, and roast hot dogs. On summer evenings after dark, we go strolling through the park. We practice tricks I've learned today and gaze up at the Milky Way. And when the moon sets in the sky, she sings a monster lullaby of things that shriek and moan and creep, soothing things to help me sleep. She tucks me tightly into bed, then asks me if my spider's fed, and hangs my favorite bat above me. That's how I know my mama loves me. And a lot of them on that page. All cozy for the night. Look at that ginormous spider over by his bed. Creepy. Oops, one other thing is true. Your monster mama loves you too. Okay, I've got to count up my tally marks. I didn't record them as well as I should. Okay, there's 10, 20, 26, 28, 30, 39, 42. 42 plus the 5 at the beginning. So 47 pronouns in that book. Pretty amazing, pretty surprising and impressive. How did you do? Did you get the same amount as me as you were identifying all of them? We're going to practice some more with some pronouns this week. Now for our history studies, we're going to do our last two 7 ancient wonders of the world. And this time I want to tell you about a 7th wonder that is called the Colossus of Rhodes. Okay, really, really interesting. This was a giant statue that was almost as tall as the Statue of Liberty, and it was built to celebrate a victory of the people of Rhodes over a general named Demetrius. Historians of the time recorded that the statue stood over 30 meters tall, which is 107 feet. The statue was the image of the Greek god Helios, who was the patron of the city of Rhodes. People would travel all over to see this statue. It was an early tourist trap. It got people to travel a long time. The whole thing started with Alexander the Great. This sounds familiar. Alexander set out to conquer pretty much everyone and anyone that he came in contact with. And he was pretty successful too. Unfortunately for his empire, Alexander had no interest in governing or leading. He seemed only interested in war and taking over. When Alexander died at the age of 32, some historians claim that he said, "I leave my empire to whoever is strong enough to take it." No one is really sure if Alexander actually said that, but that is might as well have been, because we know that his generals then fought over pieces of his empire. The two generals that have a part of the story in the Colossus of Rhodes are Ptolemy and Antigonus the One-Eyed. Seriously, that is what they called him. They used a long Greek word, but his last name meant the One-Eyed. Okay? We don't know why he was given that name. The city of Rhodes was an important port in the Mediterranean Sea. The city of Rhodes was not allied with Ptolemy, but was kind of friendly with him. And Ptolemy controlled Egypt. Antigonus wanted Egypt and all the food that could be produced in Egypt. And Antigonus was afraid that the city of Rhodes would give Ptolemy ships and men to use against him. Antigonus had his son Demetrius attack the city of Rhodes. Demetrius surrounded the city of Rhodes with an army of 40,000 men. Because Rhodes was a port, Demetrius also had to block the port with a navy. Demetrius was unable to completely block the harbor, and so ships were still able to bring supplies to Rhodes. The siege of Rhodes lasted for over a year, and in the end, Demetrius left Rhodes in a hurry, leaving behind a lot of weapons and other equipment. One of the things Demetrius left behind was a giant siege engine known as the Helepolis. The Helepolis was a giant armored tower, bristling with weapons. The idea behind the Helepolis was Demetrius' men would push the Helepolis up to the wall of the city, clear the wall with catapults and other weapons, and then they would charge across a bridge and take over the city. But it didn't work. In fact, it didn't even come close to working. There are two different stories as to why it didn't work. The first one was the people of Rhodes knocked some of the iron plates off the tower, and because of the gaps in the tower's armor, it was no longer fireproof. And Demetrius stopped using the tower because he was afraid it would burn. And the second version is that the people of Rhodes flooded the land where the tower was supposed to be used. The tower was so big and heavy that it sank into the mud, and Demetrius' men were not able to pull it out of the mud. In the end, it doesn't really matter how the Helepolis failed. It, along with other weapons, were taken by the people of Rhodes and either melted down or sold to pay for the Colossus statue. They wanted to do something to celebrate their victory over this massive army of 40,000 men of Demetrius, and the fact that his Heliopolis didn't work, his huge siege tower. And so they constructed this statue to the gods. No one knows exactly where it stood. It's one of those ancient wonders that doesn't exist anymore. There are some people who think the Colossus stood at the mouth of the Rhodes Harbor, kind of like the Statue of Liberty. Some people believe that the Colossus stood straddling the entrance to the harbor, with one leg on one side of the harbor and one leg on the other, and then boats would go in between his legs. There are some who think the statue stood inside the city near a temple complex, which was also dedicated to Helios. People don't know exactly where the statue stood because the statue was destroyed in an earthquake in 226 BC, just 56 years after it was built. even though the Colossus fell down, for hundreds of years people would still travel from all over just to see it. Rhodes was conquered in 654 and AD, and the pieces of Colossus were sold. So modern historians have no real idea where the statue stood. Okay, let's take a look at some pictures of what people think this statue would have looked like. Historians describe that he also was holding a torch over his head. Okay. So here is an example. Here's a movie about the Colossus of Rhodes. In that one, he's holding the torch right here at his chest. Here's another one with kind of a crown that resembles the Statue of Liberty. And it seems like a good research challenge to try to figure out if the Statue of Liberty was based on this Colossus of Rhodes. Did the French sculptor use the Colossus of Rhodes as an example? Here's another funny illustration of him straddling the harbor, okay, holding his flame with the boats coming underneath him, and then the head. Is that after the head broke off? Why are there two heads there? Not exactly sure. Okay. But really, really interesting to me. Students have learned about our ancient wonders. So far we have the Great Pyramids of Giza, the Hanging Towers of Babylon. We have the statue of Zeus. We have the Temple of Artemis, and we have the Lighthouse of Alexandria, and now the Colossus of Rhodes. We'll learn about our final ancient Greek wonder in the video tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you later.